The door was half open, the light inside flickering. At first, he thought someone had simply forgotten to lock it. Then he heard the crying. Quiet. Controlled. The kind of sobbing that tries not to exist. When the mafia boss opened the door, he didn't see chaos. He saw a woman sitting on the floor, her uniform torn, her body shaking, her face turned away in shame. And that was when he understood. This wasn't an accident, this was something she had been surviving. Thaddeus Ravencroft had not set foot in the Sterling corporate tower in 6 months. Not because he didn't own it, he did. Every floor, every contract, every employee, on payroll. But men like Thaddeus didn't announce their presence. They moved through their empire like shadows, watching, listening, remembering. Tonight, he was dressed like everyone else. Dark pants, white shirt, no tie, a maintenance supervisor's badge clipped to his belt. No one looked twice. At 34 years old, Thaddeus had learned that real power didn't need a stage. It needed silence and patience. He had come to check on something small, a security flaw in the server room that his IT team had flagged but not fixed. The kind of oversight that, in his world, could cost lives. So he came himself, unannounced, unchaperoned. The 10th floor was supposed to be empty after 9 p.m., but as he walked past the executive offices, past the glass-walled conference rooms, past the rows of cubicles, bathed in emergency lighting, he saw it. A supply closet, door ajar, light flickering inside. Thaddeus stopped. His instinct wasn't curiosity, it was caution. In his line of work, open doors meant traps or mistakes, and both could be fatal. But then he heard it. Crying. Not loud, not hysterical, just broken, the kind of sound that comes from someone who has learned that screaming doesn't help. Thaddeus's hand moved to the door. He pushed it open slowly, and that was when he saw her. She was sitting on the floor of the supply closet, her back against a shelf stacked with cleaning chemicals. Her uniform, navy blue with the building's logo stitched on the chest, was torn at the shoulder. Her hair, dark and pulled into a ponytail, had come loose. Her hands were shaking as she tried to wipe her face with the sleeve of her shirt. But it was the bruises that made Thaddeus's breath stop. On her wrist, on her forearm, a faint mark, on her cheekbone, that she had tried to cover with makeup. And when she finally looked up at him, her eyes were red, swollen, terrified. "I'm sorry," she said immediately. Her voice was hoarse. I'll clean this up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to." Thaddeus didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, his mind cataloging every detail. The way she pulled her knees to her chest, the way she avoided his eyes, the way her body seemed to fold in on itself, as if she were trying to disappear. This wasn't someone who had tripped, or fallen, or had a bad day. This was someone who had been hurt, repeatedly, and had learned to hide it. "What happened?" Thaddeus asked. His voice was calm, measured, not a demand, a question. She shook her head quickly. "Nothing, I'm fine, I need to finish my shift." She tried to stand, but her legs buckled. Thaddeus stepped forward instinctively, his hand reaching out. But she flinched, hard, like she expected to be hit. And that was when Thaddeus understood. This wasn't about what had happened tonight. This was about what had been happening for a long time. Thaddeus crouched down slowly, keeping his distance. He didn't get closer. He didn't touch her. He just knelt there, at eye level, his hands visible. "I'm not going to hurt you," he said quietly. She didn't respond. Her breathing was uneven. Her eyes darted to the door. Thaddeus recognized that look. He had seen it before, in men who owed debts they couldn't pay, in people who had crossed lines they couldn't uncross. It was the look of someone calculating escape routes. "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated. "Seren." "Seren," Thaddeus repeated. "How long have you worked here?" 8 months. "And how long has this been happening?" Her jaw tightened. "I don't know what you're talking about." "The bruises," Thaddeus said evenly. "The torn uniform, the fact that you're hiding in a supply closet after hours." Seren's hands clenched into fists. "It's nothing. I'm clumsy. Don't." Thaddeus's voice was still calm. But there was something underneath it now, something that made her stop mid-sentence. "Don't insult both of us by pretending this is nothing," he said. You don't have to tell me what happened. But don't lie to me. Seren stared at him. For the first time, she really looked at him. And Thaddeus saw something shift in her expression, confusion, maybe even suspicion. Who are you? She asked. Thaddeus considered his answer carefully. He could tell her the truth, that he owned this building, that he controlled more than she could imagine, that one word from him could end whoever had done this to her. But he didn't, because the truth would scare her, and she was already scared enough. Someone who's going to make sure this doesn't happen again, he said instead. Seren's eyes filled with tears. You can't, she whispered. If you say anything, I'll lose my job. Or worse. Worse? She looked away, and Thaddeus understood. Whoever had hurt her had made sure she knew the cost of speaking up. He stood slowly. Stay here, he said. I'll be right back. Wait. But Thaddeus was already gone. Thaddeus didn't go far. Just to the vending machine at the end of the hall. He bought a bottle of water, a pack of crackers, and a small first aid kit from the maintenance office. When he returned to the supply closet, Seren was still sitting on the floor, but she had stopped crying. Her expression was blank now, numb. Thaddeus set the items down beside her. Drink this, he said, and eat something if you can. She didn't move. I'm not trying to fix you, Thaddeus continued. I'm just trying to help you get through the next hour. Seren's gaze flickered to the water bottle, then to him. Why? She asked. Why what? Why do you care? It was a fair question. Thaddeus had asked himself the same thing. He didn't know this woman, didn't owe her anything. In his world, people got hurt every day. That was the cost of doing business. But there was something about the way she had flinched, the way she had apologized, the way she had tried to disappear. It reminded him of something he had spent years trying to forget. Because someone should, he said simply. Seren picked up the water bottle. Her hands were still shaking, but she managed to twist the cap off. She took a sip. Then another. Thaddeus watched her in silence. And that was when he made a decision. He was going to find out who had done this, and he was going to make sure they never did it again. I need to ask you something, Thaddeus said after a few minutes of silence. Seren looked up at him warily. Who did this to you? She shook her head immediately. I can't tell you that. Can't or won't? Both. Thaddeus leaned against the doorframe. If you don't tell me, I'll find out anyway. Then why ask? Fair point. Because I want to hear it from you, Thaddeus said. Because you would deserve to say it out loud. Seren's throat worked as she swallowed. It doesn't matter, she said finally. Even if I told you, nothing would change. People like me were replaceable. People like you. Janitors, cleaners, the invisible ones. Her voice was bitter now. We don't have HR complaints. We don't have lawyers. We have jobs we can't afford to lose. And you think staying silent protects you? I think staying silent keeps me alive. The words hung in the air. Thaddeus had heard variations of that sentence before. In his world, fear was currency, and someone had clearly taught Seren that her silence was worth more than her safety. When did it start? He asked. Seren closed her eyes. 3 months ago. What happened 3 months ago? I saw something I wasn't supposed to see. What? She shook her head again. I can't. Please. Just let it go. Thaddeus studied her. Every instinct told him to press harder, to demand answers, to use whatever leverage he needed to get the truth. But he didn't, because Seren wasn't one of his soldiers. She wasn't someone he controlled. She was someone who had already lost too much control over her own life. All right, he said quietly. I won't push, but I need you to do something for me. What? Go home tonight. Lock your door. Don't come back to this building until I tell you it's safe. Seren's eyes widened. I can't just not show up. They'll fire me. They won't. How do you know that? Thaddeus held her gaze. Because I'm going to make sure of it. There was something in his voice, something that made Seren believe him, even though she had no reason to. Who are you? She asked again. Thaddeus almost smiled. Someone who keeps promises. Thaddeus escorted Seren to the parking garage. She had protested at first, insisted she could walk herself to her car, but he had simply started walking, and she had followed. The garage was nearly empty at this hour, just a few scattered vehicles under the fluorescent lights. Seren stopped beside a small Honda, with a dented bumper and a cracked taillight. "This is me," she said. Thaddeus waited as she unlocked the door. "Seren," she turned. "If anything happens, if you see anyone following you, if you feel unsafe in any way, call this number." He handed her a business card. It was blank except for a phone number, no name, no company. She stared at it. "Who will I be calling?" "Someone who answers." Seren tucked the card into her pocket. Then she looked at him, really looked at him, for the first time since they'd met. "Why are you doing this?" she asked. "You don't even know me." "I don't have to know you to know that what happened to you was wrong." For a moment she seemed like she might cry again, but instead she just nodded. "Thank you," she whispered. Then she got in her car and drove away. Thaddeus watched her, taillights disappear into the night, and then he turned back toward the building. He had work to do. Thaddeus returned to the 10th floor. This time, he wasn't pretending to be a maintenance supervisor. He went straight to the security office on the 3rd floor. The night shift guard looked up from his phone. "Can I help you?" Thaddeus showed him a different badge. This one had his real name, and a title that made the guard's expression change immediately. "Mr. Ravencroft, I didn't know you were in the building tonight." "I wasn't here," Thaddeus said calmly. "Understood?" "Yes, sir." "I need access to the camera footage. 10th floor, last 3 months." The guard's hands moved quickly across the keyboard. "10th floor, got it. What time frame?" "All of it, and I want copies sent to this email." Thaddeus wrote down an encrypted address. "Should be ready in about 20 minutes, sir." "Good. One more thing." "Yes?" "Who else has accessed this footage in the last 3 months?" The guard pulled up the logs. Looks like just routine reviews. The facilities manager checked it twice, and..." He paused. "And?" "Mr. Blackwell from HR accessed it 4 times. Thaddeus's jaw tightened. Lysander Blackwell, Director of Human Resources, 42 years old, married, 2 kids. On the surface, he looked like every other corporate executive, but Thaddeus had learned a long time ago that monsters didn't always look like monsters. "Pull everything Blackwell accessed," Thaddeus said. "I want dates, times, and which cameras he reviewed." "Yes, sir." Thaddeus left the security office and took the elevator back to the 10th floor. He walked the halls slowly, his trained eye noting every detail. The supply closet where he'd found Seren was near the women's restroom, far from the main hallways. No cameras nearby. Convenient. Too convenient. He kept walking, past the break room, past the copy room, until he reached the corner office at the end of the hall. The nameplate read, Lysander Blackwell, Director of Human Resources. Thaddeus tried the door. Locked. He pulled out a small tool from his pocket and had it open in 15 seconds. Inside, the office was exactly what he expected. Neat desk, family photos on the credenza, motivational posters on the walls. Thaddeus sat down at Blackwell's computer and bypassed the password with practiced ease. Then he started reading. It took Thaddeus less than an hour to find what he was looking for. Email chains, personnel files, incident reports that had been filed and then mysteriously closed, and names, so many names, women who had worked in the building, women who had complained about harassment, about inappropriate behavior, about feeling unsafe. Every single complaint had been directed to Lysander Blackwell, and every single complaint had been dismissed. Insufficient evidence. He said, she said, not enough to warrant disciplinary action. But Thaddeus dug deeper. He cross-referenced the names with employment records, and he found something interesting. Every woman who had filed a complaint had either quit within 6 months or been transferred to different shifts. Isolated shifts, night shifts, where there were fewer witnesses. And then he found Saren's name. She had never filed a formal complaint, but there was an incident report from 3 months ago, written by Blackwell himself. It described a verbal altercation between Saren and another employee. The other employee's name: Corvus Grimshaw, Senior Facilities Supervisor. According to the report, Saren had made unfounded accusations against Grimshaw. The accusations weren't specified, but the recommendation was clear. Employee Saren Ashwood should be monitored closely for future behavioral issues. Thaddeus sat back in the chair. The pieces were starting to fit together. Saren had seen something involving Corvus Grimshaw. She had spoken up, and Lysander Blackwell had made sure she paid for it. But Thaddeus needed more than suspicions. He needed proof. Thaddeus spent the next 2 days watching. He didn't return to the building as himself. Instead, he came back as the maintenance supervisor. Different shifts, different times, learning the rhythms of the place. Who came and went, who spoke to whom, who avoided whom. On the 3rd day, he found his first witness. Her name was Ottilie, late 50s, another janitor. She worked the morning shift, arriving at 5 a.m. when the building was still mostly empty. Thaddeus accidentally ran into her in the break room. "Long shift?" he asked casually. Ottilie looked up from her coffee. "Every shift is long at my age." Thaddeus smiled. "I hear you. I'm new to this building, still learning the ropes." "Well, keep your head down and do your work. That's the best advice I can give you." "Noted." Thaddeus paused. "Hey, do you know someone named Saren? I think she works nights." Ottilie's expression changed, just slightly, but Thaddeus caught it. "Why are you asking about Saren?" "I found some of her cleaning supplies in the wrong closet. Wanted to return them." Ottilie studied him for a long moment. Then she sighed. "Saren's a good girl, hardworking, keeps to herself. Sounds like she's had a rough time lately." "You could say that. What happened?" Ottilie set down her coffee cup. "You really new here?" "Yeah." "Then let me give you some free advice. Don't ask questions about Saren. Don't ask questions about any of the night shift girls. Just do your job and go home." "Why?" Ottilie leaned in closer. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Because the last person who asked questions ended up quitting 2 weeks later." "What kind of questions?" "The kind about why bruises keep showing up. The kind about why girls who complain suddenly get written up for performance issues they never had before." Thaddeus's pulse quickened. "Do you know who's responsible?" Ottilie shook her head. "I don't know anything. And neither do you, understand?" She stood up, grabbed her coffee, and walked out. But Thaddeus understood perfectly. Ottilie knew something. She was just too scared to say it, which meant he needed to find someone who wasn't. Thaddeus found his second witness that same night. Alaric Sterling, security guard, 28 years old, worked the overnight shift from midnight to 8 a.m. Thaddeus approached him during a quiet moment in the lobby. "Hey man, got a minute?" Sterling looked up from his desk. "Sure, what's up?" "I'm trying to track down some footage from a few months back. Camera on the 10th floor, but I'm hearing it might have been deleted." Sterling's expression tightened. "Who told you that?" "Does it matter?" "Yeah, actually, it does." Thaddeus leaned against the desk. "Look, I'm not trying to get anyone in trouble. I'm just trying to figure out what happened to someone." "Who?" "A janitor named Saren." Sterling's jaw clenched. "You might need to drop this." "Why?" "Because people who ask about Saren end up regretting it." "I'm not worried about regrets." Sterling stood up. He was a big guy, 6'2", maybe 220, but Thaddeus didn't move. "Listen to me carefully," Sterling said. "I like this job. I need this job. And I'm not about to lose it because some new guy wants to play hero. I'm not asking you to play hero. I'm asking you to tell me the truth." "The truth?" Sterling laughed bitterly. "The truth is that bad things happen in this building, and the people who try to stop them either quit or get fired. So unless you want to join that list, I suggest you mind your business." He sat back down. Conversation over. Or so he thought. Thaddeus pulled out his phone. He opened a photo. and he showed it to Sterling. It was a screenshot from Blackwell's computer, an email chain between Blackwell and Grimshaw. The subject line read, "The Seren Situation." Sterling's eyes widened. "Where did you get that? Does it matter?" Sterling stared at the screen. His hands were shaking. "If Blackwell finds out you have that, he won't, unless you tell him." "I'm not telling him shit." "Good. Then tell me what you know." Sterling rubbed his face. "Man, you don't know what you're getting into." "Try me." Sterling looked around to make sure they were alone. Then he spoke. "Seren saw something she wasn't supposed to see," Sterling began. 3 months ago, late night, she was cleaning the executive floor when she heard a woman crying in one of the conference rooms. Thaddeus listened without interrupting. She opened the door to check if someone needed help, and she found Grimshaw with one of the other janitors, a girl named Elowen. Elowen was crying, trying to leave. Grimshaw was blocking the door. Sterling's voice was tight with anger. Seren told him to leave. Elowen alone. Grimshaw got pissed, told Seren to mind her business, but Seren didn't back down. She helped Elowen get out of there. And then, Elowen quit the next day, just didn't show up, didn't answer her phone, gone. And Seren tried to report it, but she made the mistake of going to HR, to Blackwell. Thaddeus's fists clenched. "Let me guess. Blackwell swept it under the rug." "Worse, he told Grimshaw about it, and Grimshaw, he's connected. His brother-in-law's on the board of directors, so Blackwell made sure Seren looked like the problem." "How?" "Wrote her up for false accusations. Moved her to the night shift where there are fewer people around, made sure everyone knew she was a troublemaker." "And Grimshaw?" Sterling's expression darkened. "Grimshaw started showing up on her shift, following her, cornering her in empty hallways, making Blackwell knew about this." "Of course he knew." Seren tried to report it again. Blackwell told her if she made another complaint, she'd be fired for harassment. Harassment? Yeah, against Grimshaw. Can you believe that shit? Thaddeus could, because he had seen this playbook before, not in corporate America, but in his world. The way powerful men protected each other, the way they weaponized systems designed to protect people, the way they made victims feel like criminals. "Do you have proof of any of this?" Thaddeus asked. Sterling hesitated. "I have something. But if I give it to you, you didn't get it from me." "Understood." Sterling pulled out his phone. He scrolled through his photos. Then he showed Thaddeus a video. It was grainy, shot from a security camera. The timestamp showed 2 months ago, the 10th floor hallway. Seren was pushing a cleaning cart, and then Corvus Grimshaw appeared. He said something to her. She shook her head. He stepped closer. She tried to move past him. He grabbed her arm. She pulled away. He grabbed her again, harder this time, and then he pushed her against the wall. The video had no sound. But Thaddeus didn't need it. He could see everything he needed to see in Seren's face. Fear, pain, helplessness. The video ended with Grimshaw walking away, and Seren sliding down to the floor. Thaddeus looked at Sterling. "Send me that video." "I can't. It'll be traced back to me." "Send it to this email. It's encrypted. No one will know." Thaddeus wrote down the address. Sterling stared at it. "If I do this, if Blackwell finds out." "He won't find out. And even if he does, he won't be in a position to do anything about it." "What's that supposed to mean?" Thaddeus's expression was cold. "It means I'm going to make sure Corvus Grimshaw and Lysander Blackwell never hurt anyone again." Thaddeus spent the next 72 hours compiling evidence. He had Sterling's video. He had Blackwell's emails. He had the personnel files showing the pattern of dismissed complaints. He had statements from Ottilie, carefully documented through a third party so she couldn't be traced. And he had security footage from 4 other incidents involving Grimshaw and different employees. All of it pointed to the same conclusion. Corvus Grimshaw was a predator, and Lysander Blackwell was his accomplice. But Thaddeus didn't want just to expose them. He wanted to destroy them, completely, permanently. So he reached out to someone he trusted, a lawyer named Muriel Frost. She specialized in employment law, and she owed Thaddeus a favor. They met in a coffee shop 3 blocks from the Sterling building. Muriel arrived with a briefcase and a grim expression. I reviewed everything you sent me, she said without preamble. And? And you have enough to bury both of them, criminally and civilly. Good. But there's a problem. What problem? The victims. The women Grimshaw harassed. Most of them are gone. They quit. Moved away. Some might not want to relive this. What about Seren? Muriel's expression softened. Seren is your strongest witness, but she's also the most vulnerable. If this goes to court, her life is going to be torn apart. Defense attorneys will dig into everything, her background, her finances, her relationships. They'll try to make her look unreliable. Can she handle it? That's not for me to decide. That's for her to decide. Thaddeus nodded slowly. Set it up. I want to meet with her and explain her options, but make it clear she doesn't have to do anything she doesn't want to do. Understood. Muriel paused. Thaddeus, I have to ask, why are you doing this? I've known you for 10 years. You don't usually get involved in things like this. Thaddeus looked out the window at the people walking by, living their lives, unaware of the violence hiding in plain sight. Because someone has to, he said finally. Muriel smiled slightly. You're a good man, Thaddeus Ravencroft, even if you don't want to admit it. Don't let that get around. It'll ruin my reputation. 3 days later, Thaddeus met Seren in a small office Muriel had arranged. Neutral territory, safe, private. Seren walked in looking tired. She had dark circles under her eyes. Her hands were clasped tightly in front of her. You said this was important, she said. It is. Sit down. She sat. Thaddeus sat across from her. Muriel sat beside him, her briefcase open, legal pads ready. Seren, this is Muriel Frost. She's an attorney. Serene's eyes widened. I told you I didn't want to get involved. Just listen, Thaddeus said gently. Please. Serene's jaw tightened, but she stayed. Thaddeus laid it out for her, everything he had found, the emails, the video, the pattern of victims, the cover-up. By the time he finished, Seren's hands were shaking. You did all of this. For me? Not just for you. For every woman Grimshaw hurt. For every woman Blackwell silenced. Tears ran down Seren's face. I don't know what to say. Muriel leaned forward. You don't have to say anything right now, Seren, but you do have options. We can file a civil lawsuit against Grimshaw, Blackwell, and the company. We can file a criminal complaint, or we can use this evidence to negotiate a settlement that includes policy changes and their termination. What do you want me to do? I want you to do whatever feels right for you, Muriel said. This is your choice, not theirs, not mine, not even Thaddeus's, yours. Seren looked at Thaddeus. What would you do? Thaddeus considered the question. In my world, we handle things differently. But this isn't my world, this is yours, and I think you need to decide what justice looks like for you. Seren was quiet for a long time. Then she spoke. I want them gone, not just fired. I want them to never be able to do this to anyone else, ever again. Muriel nodded. Then we go criminal. I'll contact the district attorney's office. They'll want to interview you. It won't be easy. I know, Seren said, but I'm tired of being scared. Thaddeus felt something in his chest tighten. Pride. Respect. This woman had been broken down, isolated, made to feel powerless, and she was choosing to fight back anyway. Then we fight, Thaddeus said. Thaddeus decided to handle Corvus Grimshaw personally. Not violently, but definitively. He waited until Grimshaw's shift started. Then he called him. Corvus Grimshaw, this is building management. We need you in conference room A. Now. Grimshaw showed up 10 minutes later. Looking annoyed, he opened the door and found Thaddeus sitting at the head of the table. Who the hell are you? Thaddeus gestured to the chair across from him. Sit down, Corvus. I'm not sitting anywhere until you tell me what this is about. Thaddeus pressed a button on the laptop in front of him. The Saru security footage started playing. Grimshaw's face on the screen, grabbing Seren, pushing her. Grimshaw's expression changed. Where did you get that? Sit down. Grimshaw sat. His hands were gripping the armrests. You can't prove anything with that. There's no sound, no context. There's enough context, Thaddeus said calmly. And there's more where that came from. Video, emails, testimony from multiple witnesses. I have enough to bury you. Grimshaw's face flushed red. You don't know who you're messing with. My brother-in-law is a board member. I know. I also know he values his reputation more than he values you. Thaddeus slid a folder across the table. This is what's going to happen. You're going to resign. Effective immediately, you're going to sign a statement admitting to harassment and acknowledging that you are voluntarily leaving to avoid criminal charges. And if I don't, then I hand everything I have to the police, and you'll be arrested for assault, harassment, and intimidation. You'll spend years in court. Your name will be in every newspaper. Your family will know exactly what kind of man you are. Grimshaw's hands were shaking now. You can't do this. I already did. Thaddeus stood. You have until tomorrow morning to sign. If you don't, I'll assume you're choosing option 2. He walked to the door, then stopped. One more thing, Corvus. If you ever come near Seren again, if you so much as look at her, I won't go to the police. I'll handle it my way. And trust me when I tell you, you don't want that. Thaddeus left. Behind him, Corvus Grimshaw sat in silence, knowing he had lost. Lysander Blackwell was harder to crack. He was smarter, more careful, but Thaddeus had something Blackwell didn't know about. The board of directors. Thaddeus arranged a private meeting with the chairman, an elderly man named Hadrian Whitmore, who had built the company from nothing and had zero tolerance for scandal. Whitmore listened to everything Thaddeus presented. The emails, the pattern of dismissed complaints, the cover-up. When Thaddeus finished, Whitmore's face was stone. How long have you known about this? Less than 2 weeks. And you're bringing this to me now because I believe in giving people a chance to do the right thing before I make them. Whitmore leaned back in his chair. If this goes public, it'll destroy us. With respect, sir, keeping it quiet will destroy you. This isn't going away. The evidence exists. The victims exist. The only question is whether your company handles it internally or waits for a lawsuit to force your hand. Whitmore was silent for a long moment. Then he picked up his phone. Get me Lysander Blackwell, now. Blackwell arrived 20 minutes later. He walked into Whitmore's office with confidence. That confidence evaporated when he saw Thaddeus. Mr. Whitmore, I wasn't aware we were having a meeting. Sit down. Lysander. Blackwell sat. Whitmore slid the folder across the desk. Read that. Blackwell opened it. His face went pale. Sir, I can explain. I don't want explanations. I want your resignation. What? Mr. Whitmore, this is you enabling a predator. This is you silencing victims. This is you putting this company at risk to protect a man who should have been fired years ago. I was trying to avoid litigation. You were trying to avoid doing your job. Whitmore's voice was ice. You have 1 hour to clean out your desk. If you're still in this building after that, security will escort you out. And if you try to fight this, if you try to smear any of these women, I will personally make sure you never work in HR again. Understood? Blackwell looked at Thaddeus. This was you. Thaddeus didn't respond. You have no idea what you've done, Blackwell hissed. I know exactly what I've done, Thaddeus said quietly. I've made sure you can't hurt anyone else. Blackwell stood up. His hands were shaking. He looked at Whitmore. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not seeing through you sooner. Get out. Blackwell left, and Thaddeus felt something he hadn't felt in a long time, satisfaction. 2 weeks later, Thaddeus returned to the Sterling building, not as a maintenance supervisor, but as himself. He walked through the lobby, took the elevator to the 10th floor, and found Seren. She was cleaning the conference rooms. But something was different. She stood straighter, moved with more confidence. And when she saw him, she smiled. Mr. Ravencroft, you know who I am now. I figured it out. Wasn't hard once I saw your face in the company directory. Thaddeus smiled slightly. How are you doing? Better. The new HR director actually listens, and they hired 3 more people for the night shift, so I'm not alone anymore. Good. Seren set down her cleaning supplies. I heard Grimshaw resigned, and Blackwell was fired. They won't be bothering anyone again. Because of you. Because of you. Thaddeus corrected. You were the one who stood up, even when it was hard, even when it was dangerous. Seren's eyes filled with tears. But these were different tears. Thank you, she whispered, for believing me, for helping me, for caring. You don't have to thank me. Yes, I do, because if you hadn't found me that night, I don't know if I'd still be here. Thaddeus's throat tightened. You would have survived. You're stronger than you think. Maybe, but I'm glad I didn't have to find out. She paused. What happens now? Now, you keep living. You keep working. You keep being exactly who you are. And you? Thaddeus looked out the window at the city below. I go back to my world. But I'll be watching. If you ever need anything, I know I have your number. Thaddeus nodded. He turned to leave. Mr. Ravencroft. He looked back. You said you weren't a hero, but you're wrong. You are, at least to me. Thaddeus didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded again and left. 1 month later, Thaddeus received an email from Muriel. The DA's office accepted our case. Seren gave her statement yesterday. She was incredible. Strong. Clear. Unshakable. Grimshaw is being charged with assault and harassment. Blackwell is being investigated for obstruction and conspiracy. Both are likely to face jail time. Seren wanted me to tell you thank you. Again. She also wanted me to tell you that she enrolled in college, business administration. She wants to work her way up. Wants to prove that what happened to her doesn't define her. I thought you'd want to know. Thaddeus read the email twice. Then he closed his laptop. He stood, walked to the window of his office, and looked out at the city. Somewhere out there, Seren was building a new life. A life where she didn't have to be invisible. A life where she didn't have to be afraid. And that, Thaddeus thought, was worth more than any empire. Thaddeus was in a meeting when his phone buzzed. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but something made him check. The text message was simple. I graduated top of my class this semester. Thought you'd want to know. Seren. Thaddeus smiled. He typed back, proud of you. Keep going. 3 dots appeared. Then, I will. Thank you for everything. Thaddeus put his phone away, and for the first time in years, he felt something unexpected. Hope, not for himself, but for the people he helped, for the justice that could still exist in a world full of darkness, and for the quiet victories that no one else would ever know about. Because that was the thing about real power. It wasn't loud, it wasn't showy, it was the ability to change someone's life and walk away without needing credit. Thaddeus Ravencroft was many things. A businessman, a leader, a man with blood on his hands and secrets he'd never share. But on that night in a supply closet, when he'd heard a woman crying, he had chosen to be something else, someone who gave a damn.